Emily Wikner, and I'm just here to talk to you about biblical stewardship and what I've learned through my life. I have a PowerPoint. Is that? Ooh, it's queued up. Thank you, sound tech guys. You're amazing. So, you guys can go ahead to the next slide. So, hi, my name is Emily Wikner. I am the Christian Education Director here. I've been here for a total of 3 whole months. Wow, isn't that such a long time? Yeah, I'm a baby here. Something you should know about me is that whenever there's kind of a topic in just like a church that people are kind of scared of, I dive straight into it. And so we're just going to dive straight in to talk about biblical stewardship today. Shameless plug, I also love talking about eschatology. That's studying the end times. We're doing a Bible study on that in the coming up months, so we're going to do Daniel Revelation. So yeah, that's one of the things I love diving into. But talking about money, that can also be kind of taboo, kind of uncomfortable in the church. But we're just going to go straight into it today. So we're going to talk about what I've learned over the years. Next slide. So when I was little, my parents tried to teach me about giving and like how it's important to give to church, and I just didn't want to do it. Because I was like, well, they're making me do it. It's not like coming from my heart. I was maybe a little anti-legalism as a young child, but also maybe a little selfish. I don't know what was going on with that. When I was 16, I got asked to join a business my church was starting called Tripod. And one of the goals of this business was to teach teenage girls in the community how to manage their finances and like how to be ready for jobs in the future, how to get ready for college, how to build cross-cultural friendships. And so it was from this business, as I was working, as I was like a professional dough roller outer, if that's a term, like I would roll out all the pie dough. I got really good at crimping everybody, like really good. So I was doing that, but they were also having classroom sessions to teach us about how to give. And we actually had to make a giving and a savings plan with all of our paychecks. And they had like biblical reasons for why we were doing this. So if you read a lot in the Old Testament, you'll see like a bunch of these laws that we kind of glaze over, but they're actually super important. So some of the giving laws was, you're all familiar with the term tithe. That's a fancy word of saying 10. And what the tribes of Israel were supposed to do is they were supposed to give a tithe of all of their crops, because they were living in an agrarian society. They're supposed to give a tithe of that to the Levite tribe, because the Levites, they were the priestly tribe. They were doing all the ministry work, and because they were doing that, they didn't have a land inheritance. If you don't have a land inheritance, you live in an agrarian society, you don't have any food to grow. And so the tithe was just a very practical way for this nation to care for the group of priests. But there were more tithes to that. They had a tithe to support the Sabbath year, because they would take a year off of working. And obviously, if you're not working the land, you're not having food. And so it was a way to save up for that. Then there was another tithe. There are a lot of tithes here. Every 3 years. And this one was to care for widows and the poor, foreigners, and orphans. So it was kind of like their charitable giving fund. So all in all, we kind of view like 10% as like a base level for giving in the church. But if you look at like the ancient Israelites, they were giving an average of 23% of their crops. So that's just the overview of how they gave. And then another big principle that I learned from Tripod is the principle of first fruits. Ancient Israelites actually had an entire holiday dedicated to first fruits. And this was the idea of you give the first fruits of your crop and you present that to God. You don't give God the leftovers. You don't give God your tenth after you're sure you already have enough. You give the first tenth as an act of faith that God will provide the rest. So those are the 2 principles that kind of have stuck with me over the years, is giving a tenth of all that I make and making sure I give that to God first, which doesn't always happen numerically first because I'm forgetful, but it has a set place in my budget to make sure that happens. So you can, next slide please. So overall conclusions, like these are kind of some Old Testament laws. Do I think that we are necessarily obligated to follow all those Mosaic laws? No. You can click. I had under the Mosaic law, you're not obligated to giving a tithe. But there is this biblical precedence in both the Old and the New Testament for giving generously to support your ministry workers, because hey, you also gotta eat. Like I have rent to pay and stuff. So does Pastor Emily and our secretary and our janitor. Like, we're real humans. Please take care of us. And then there's also a precedent for giving generously to support other charitable causes like the widows and the poor and the orphans. And so, just because we're not living under that Mosaic law anymore, by no means does that mean we have the permission to stop living generously as Christians. And so, in my life, that's looked a lot like giving a regular tithe to my church. And when I first started off, I have to admit, it wasn't a whole lot. I was maybe making $80 for pay period, and so my tithe checks were like $8. And part of me was wondering, like, does this even make a difference for my church? And I honestly don't know if it did, like, maybe bought them some emergency office coffee. I don't know. But what it was doing in my heart is it was just getting me in the habit of giving and realizing, hey, everything I have comes from God. And honestly, 10%, that's not a huge sacrifice. Like, once it's given, I barely notice it's gone. So that was getting me prepared. But in college, I kind of felt God pushing me to the next level or to take further steps in my giving. Next slide. Go to the next one. There's a cute picture. No, not that one. One before it. That is my friend Luke. He is very cute, isn't he? Oh, dang it. That one slide doesn't have a cute picture on it. Well, I'm just going to have you imagine. You'll have to use all your imaginations for this cute picture. I probably have it on my phone. You can ask me later. So in college, I was giving a regular tithe to the church I was attending, but I kind of felt God pushing me to go a little further to give on top of my tithe at the time when a speaker came to our college, and she challenged us all to start sponsoring a Compassion International child. And she also offered like a free book to anyone who would start sponsoring a Compassion International child. And if you know me, I will do about anything for a free book, so you can see where this is going. So I was studying Spanish. I have a major in Spanish, and so my three requirements were I wanted to start sponsoring a girl in Latin America, because that way it'd be a lot easier for me to understand her letters. And I wanted to sponsor a teenager, because I know it's a lot harder for teenagers to get sponsored. So I just grabbed the first teenage girl from Latin America that I found. Her name's Susana, and she lives in Quito, Ecuador. And I was so excited about starting to sponsor her, but sponsoring her, that would put like a real dent in my monthly budget, because I was working in the college library at the time, and just like a normal work study, not that many hours a week, to like not interfere with my studies. And so I was maybe making like $150 a month. And so when I was giving my tithe of like $15, plus the sponsorship was like $38, overall that added up to, I don't have the exact numbers, but like roughly a third of my budget. So like that's taking a pretty big dent out of like my overall budget as a college student. I was like, ooh, 38, that's a lot of money. I was like, well, I could do 19, like half of 30, I could do 19. And so I called my parents. I was like, hey mom, I want to take this extra step, but I need a little extra help. And then my parents gave me the financial responsibility talk of how saying you shouldn't give more than you're able to give. I was like, thanks for crushing my dreams, mom and dad. And so I was trying to figure out how I really wanted to sponsor this child, and I just was like not coming up with the resources to do it. And so I was going around, I was asking other girls in my wing if they wanted to help me sponsor this girl. Nobody else did. I was like, great. I had already filled out the packet, and I was like getting towards like the deadline for when we had to turn the packets in. It was like 15 minutes before, and I was like in the place between either God's gonna show up or you're gonna look really stupid. And I was like, I'm about to look really stupid, aren't I? So what I did is I ended up texting my friend Tori from high school. Tori also studied Spanish at the University of Iowa. And I was like, like, hey Tori, like really out of the blue, like, do you want to sponsor a child from Compassion International with me? And I was like, not even sure what she would say. Like immediately she texted back, absolutely, yes I will. I was like, praise the Lord. So I didn't end up looking stupid because God showed up. And that was a really cool way of God showing up the last minute and showing like, oh no, providing for me so I would have like enough money to provide for this child. That was such a cool way of showing up. But then there's even a cooler story that goes along after it that is just like this huge God story of the spiral of my little tenacious 18-year-old self with this determination to sponsor this child. So the next year when I was a sophomore, I was getting ready to go on a summer-long mission trip well, you can go anywhere on these summer mission trips. My school has a bunch of different sites you can go to. And one of the options was Ecuador, like where Susanna lives, working in a camp. But I was like, you know what? I could go and I could sponsor Susanna, and not sponsor her, but I could go visit her. That'd be really cool. But I was like, I don't want to choose like my whole mission trip just because my sponsor child lives there. I was like trying to like be non-emotionally attached. So I ended up choosing a site in Bolivia, and I was like, oh, this site looks going to be so great for me, I'm so excited. And then it turns out I couldn't go there because the American missionaries were like moving back, and I wouldn't have a cultural guide, and he was very sad. So I was like very heartbroken about not going to Bolivia, and so they had to come up with an alternative site for me. And so one option was doing like youth ministry in Spain, and the other option was also in Ecuador, but this wasn't in the mountains. This was working in Quito, and I would be in a Compassion International site guiding short-term mission teams who were just coming through them. And I was like, okay, God, I'll go to Ecuador and I'll go work in a Compassion International site and visit my sponsor child for the summer. Happy? I ended up being the one who was very happy. So I ended up working in a Compassion International site in 2018. It wasn't the one that Susanna attends. Mine was up north and she's in the south, but I did get to go visit her for her birthday, and that was just, when I started sponsoring her, I dreamed of going to visit her, but like I never dreamed it would happen so soon. I never dreamed it would like happen within a year of sponsoring her. It was just such a cool way that God showed up and really blessed me because I was just so determined to give that money. And it was just, that story is just such a blessing to me, and still to this day reminds me of how faithful God is and how he gives us so much more than we can ask for or imagine. So to this day, I still sponsor Susanna. She's very cute, even though you can't see that. Tori, she still sends me $19 a month through Venmo to like split the cost evenly, so that's a big blessing to me. So some other ways I try to give beyond my time and to my friends. You can go to my friend Luke now. Change the slide. Ta-da! So this is my friend Luke. We went to youth group together. I've really gotten to see him grow in his faith, and that's been a big privilege to watch. In one of the pictures, we're decorating a forest for a surprise birthday party for a friend, and we also decorated the cat. It looks like we're sacrificing the cat, so it's like one of my favorite photos. But now Luke is all grown up, and he has his big boy job, and he actually decided to not pursue a career in engineering for a season. He's actually working on staff at the Navigators. If you know that, they're like a college ministry organization, and they just started a new chapter in Iowa City. And so when I learned he was doing this, I was like, oh, of course I want to support Luke. But again, I'm also working on a ministry salary, so not the most luxurious amount of money. So I'm like, oh, I don't have a lot to give. But when I really looked at my budget, I'm like, I can afford $10. Like, that's, it's not an extraordinary amount, but it's enough to like get my heart in the spirit of giving and supporting my friends in the ministry that we're doing. I joked to Luke, okay, I sponsor like a cup of coffee for you to take a student out, like once a month. Like that's what my money's going towards. I like to think it is. And then another way I support Luke is that I proofread his ministry newsletters. I have a minor in writing and rhetoric, so I'm good at writing. So that's just a simple way I can use my gifts and abilities to bless my friends as they're pursuing ministry. So go to the next slide. No, that's missionary since she was in second grade. And she actually just finished up a degree in Russian and international studies because she wants to do ministry in a Russian-speaking country because she's like, not a lot of people speak Russian, so she's like, there's a need, so that's where she's going. So I'm really proud of her and all that she's doing. I'm currently not financially sponsoring her because she's not living abroad yet. She was going to have some short-term options, but then COVID canceled those. So she's just hanging out at camp right now. But I know that when she goes abroad, like, of course I'm going to sponsor her. She's my friend. She's had so much impact in my life, and I want to support her in the ministry that she's doing. And just like Luke, one of the things that I do to support her now is like, I proofread her monthly prayer letters. It's something simple I can do. It takes me maybe half an hour. It's a way to use my gifts and abilities to bless her in the ministry that she's preparing to do. And we do my last one. Okay, who here has heard of the Bible Project? Hands raised. Yeah, Linda, you go. So I just started giving to the Bible Project this month. Again, I started giving $10 a month, so not by any means a lucrative amount of money. But I absolutely love the service. If you don't know about the Bible Project, what they do is they make animated videos of every book of the Bible. They have them in multiple languages. They do specific word studies on words in Hebrew and Greek. They trace themes through the Bible, like the day of the Lord, the tree of life. So you can just see the narrative of the Bible unfolding before your eyes in beautiful animation. And it teaches you so much more about what the scriptures we know and love. And I'm a huge Bible nerd. I've been following them for 6 years. And I use these resources all the time to help me prep for Bible studies, to help me understand concepts so I can boil them down to teach the kids here. And the Holy Spirit was just like, you know what, Abby, you love this resource so much. I think it's time to put your money where your mouth is. I was like, you right. But this time it wasn't like a begrudging, oh, I have to sponsor the Bible Project. No, I am so excited to sponsor them because I actually love the work that they're doing. And so I hope that all of you can see that giving, it doesn't have to be this drudgery, this thing, oh, I have to do it because God tells me. But there's so much excitement and joy in partnering with the Lord and just going alongside the Lord and seeing the work that He's doing and knowing that He can multiply what you give into so much more. So as I close, I just want to encourage you to be wise with your finances and reckless with your giving. So yeah, that's what I have. Thank you very much.